Welcome everyone to the second installment of the Solve Summer Academy. I'm Jane. I'm one of your community managers for Solve.
And I'm Hareem. I'm one of the other community managers for Solve.
And this series of Zoom and web events is really intended to, sorry, I had a little bit of weird feedback there. But this series is really intended to keep the whole Solve for Good community engaged, keep you updated on everything that's going on with the projects on Solve, and to provide resources and curriculum to support people who are working on Solve projects or working on data science for good projects in general. So today we'll hear a little bit from Andrew about the current projects that are happening, that are starting, and things that you saw last week. And then we will hear from some project partners of the projects that are just beginning. And then we'll hear from Rob Ross from the Cook County Assessor's Office, one of the current Solve project partners, about lessons learned about project scoping for data science for good and public sector projects. And then we'll go through a whole worksheet. That is one of the resources that's provided by the Center for Data Science and Public Policy and Solve for how to scope data science projects. But first, let's give a little intro of the rest of our team. Let's see, Andrew, you want to say hello?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off. So hi, everybody. I think you might have seen me from the last webinar that we did, and you've also seen my face a lot in the community management section making posts. And I'm going to just go through a little bit about a brief introduction about some announcements that we have for Solve for Good, and then also kind of update you on some of the projects that we have going on.
All right. How about Raid?
Hi everyone, I'm Rai Ghani, just here to watch and see what happens. It's all fun. And thanks for everyone for doing this.
Paul?
Same here, watching from Amsterdam in this case. Looking forward to the second event we have for the summer series.
Thanks. And Jessica?
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Toth. I'm the program manager for Solve. Most of my work is on the platform. Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Cool. Well, I think without further ado, we can kick it on over to Andrew to give us a little bit of an update on Solve.
Great. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so like I said, everybody, I'm one of the project managers for Solve for Good and also involved in the community management. And so what I'd like to do with these webinars, just to kind of keep everybody on the same page and have an understanding of what's going on in the community, we'll kick these off with some community announcements and things to look out for. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're putting new resources, which are coming soon, on the resources section of the Solve for Good website. The resources are already developed and they should be pushed out to the website in the next 24 or 48 hours. We'll make another announcement post into the Slack, but you can keep your eye out on that. And we have some super interesting resources that are going on there. Things like the life cycle of a data science project, and particularly those for social good and those that are working with organizations in the nonprofit sector or government organizations or NGOs. Then there's an introduction to bias and fairness in machine learning, which is a super interesting dive into that topic. And importantly, it's also something that we're going to be covering a little bit later in the Solve Summer Academy in one of the sessions. And then just to kind of show the broad range of types of resources that we're putting out on Solve for Good. One of the resources is on setting up an Amazon Web Service, AWS, for data science projects. So if that's something that your team is struggling with or looking into or needs to get more info on, we at least have one resource there that you can kind of look to. The second announcement is that we are recording all of these webinars. So if you're ever unable to make one of the Solve Summer Academies in person, or you just want to share them or look back on them, they're all posted on the Data Science for Social Good YouTube account. And we've already sent out some links in the community, but we'll be sure to every time that we upload them, we'll be putting them out into the community. And we're uploading them 2 ways. So we always try and put kind of like a full, we're going to try and put a full sequence of the webinar so you can kind of watch it start to end, just as we do it here. And then we'll also take out relevant chunks and kind of put them into little pieces so that if there's something in particular you want to look back on, you're able to do that. The third announcement is that we're hiring a software engineer to work on the Solve for Good platform. So I'm not sure if there'd be anyone interested here, but if you have someone in your networks that you think might be interested, again, that job posting is out on the community, but if you want to get more information, you can either message myself or Jessica Toth on the Solve for Good website, on the Solve for Good Slack channel to get more information. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about our recruiting process. So you've probably seen that we've sent out some messages looking for volunteers with different backgrounds. And so what the kind of our process right now is, as we're going through figuring out what types of projects will be on the Solve for Good platform, we're kind of making an open call or an open request to everyone in the community to volunteer. And one of the things I want to note is that, as you noticed, you may have noticed the community has grown to almost 1,000 people in the community right now. And certainly we don't have enough spots at this point in time for everybody. I just wanted to say we're doing our best to try and find projects and places for everybody. But if you're unable to, there's other ways that you can kind of interact with the community. So I was speaking with a volunteer yesterday, and she had already reached out to other people in the community just on her own. She was kind of scrolling through. If you look through the bios, I mean, everyone in the community is so talented. It's amazing. And she had just kind of been messaging around and finding peers and people that were interested in the same space that she was in. And they've kind of already formed their own little volunteer team. So when I reached out to her, she said, oh, I already know a few people that are good at, in this particular case, it was geospatial, working with geospatial data. But you could imagine doing this within the community on anything that you're interested in. So I would say, even if you're not seeing frequently contacts from myself or from someone from the Solve for Good community on specific volunteering opportunities, definitely send a message out to other individuals that are like-minded and interested in the same thing. There's a lot of value in that. And that's kind of the transition into projects. So we're going to go through 2 things here. The first piece of this is that we're planning on throughout the summer to provide updates on the projects that we've introduced you to. So today I have updates on the 2 projects that were in the last Summer Academy. And then we also are going to hear from 2 new projects this webinar. So the first one, I won't go into it in too much detail. If you're curious, you can go look up the video that they presented on this project in detail. But this is a project with some past DSSG fellows in the City of Dallas and the Child Poverty Action Lab that's on mitigating eviction risk for residents in the City of Dallas. And the idea of this project is that the volunteers here are really trying to identify exactly where evictions are happening most commonly in the City of Dallas, even down to, the specific apartment buildings or the specific, like one square mile neighborhood. And the idea is that through this, they can try and provide some kind of eviction mitigating resources, whether it be outreach or eviction mitigating funding or things along that line. And interestingly enough, if there's any John Oliver fans, John Oliver just did a piece on evictions this past weekend. And one of the things that he brought up is that due to the COVID pandemic, evictions are about to be an even bigger issue than they already were. And that's kind of the angle that this project is getting at. So as an update with this project, so far the volunteers have received the data, which is eviction records from the past few years in the City of Dallas. And right now they're working on the legal agreements to get started. The second project is about working with a nonprofit organization called Illinois Legal Aid Online that provides legal advice, free legal advice online. And here we have 3 past DSSG alumni who are volunteering on this project. And the idea here is to look at very detailed user data that can even tell kind of stories of how users are using this website so that they can identify how how those users' needs are either being met, or perhaps there's needs that are not being met properly. And it's about giving a better insight into Illinois legal aid's process so that they can better help their beneficiaries and those vulnerable individuals that they help. And right now, they're also working on finalizing some of their legal agreements. And they've also gotten access to the data. For those data scientists or those technically inclined, what's kind of interesting with this project is that they've been able to set up a VPN into the system of Illinois legal aid, and they're going to work directly on their system through a VPN. So that's kind of a progress update there. And now, without further ado, I'll introduce the first of the two new projects that we have coming up. And the first one is another past DSSG fellow, Eduardo, who's going to talk about the project with MedicMobile. So I'll hand it off to you now, Eduardo.
Thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. This is Eduardo. I was a DSSG fellow in 2015. And today I'm here on behalf of my team and our project partner to talk to you about a project that we are kicking off in next week. So our project partner, MedicMobile, is a nonprofit that focuses on improving healthcare for hard-to-reach communities. They do so through a software called the Community Health Toolkit, which is an open source tool that helps health workers collect data to ensure safe deliveries, track outbreaks, treat illnesses, keep stock of essential medicines, among other things. But this project is going to focus on the first part, the first objective, which is ensuring safe deliveries. So for health workers to provide proper care to pregnant women, they have to schedule prenatal care visits as well as anticipate the actual delivery date. Both events are informed by reporting the last menstrual period, also called LMP, which is collected by health workers and reported in the platform. So by convention, pregnancies are dated in weeks, starting from the first day of LMP. So it's no surprise that this measure plays a critical role in estimating the actual delivery date. So what's the problem? Currently, there's a tendency to estimate this measured LMP in months, which isn't useful, especially if we want to estimate and anticipate delivery date. Given that MedicMobile has to allocate resources for these prenatal care visits and labor, having a more accurate estimation will help them provide better healthcare. So our project is going to use anonymized data to understand how LMP variations impact estimated delivery dates, as well as the prenatal care visits for women in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And this first project is all about exploration, right? So the first step is, the very important first step is to just understand the data, see what's there, and be in close contact with the project partner, because they know how the process behind the data collection. So this is going to be about exploring and talking to them, and then communicating what we find. And maybe if we think there's enough signal in the data, we may pursue other objectives, such as estimating delivery dates or helping them improve the scheduling for the prenatal care visits.
Awesome. Thanks, Eduardo. And so we look forward to hearing some updates more from the MedicMobile team. As Eduardo said, they're going to be kicking it off relatively soon here. So yeah, super excited about where that project's going to go. And then the other project that we're launching, in the process of launching, is with Cook County, the Cook County Assessor's Office in Chicago. And without further ado, I'll bring in Rob and to talk more about the project.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Ross, the Cook County Assessor. I'm the Chief Data Officer for the Cook County Assessor's Office. The project that we have, well, the Cook County Assessor is tasked with estimating the market value of about 1.8 million properties in Cook County. We do about a third of the county every single year. So every single year we have to algorithmically produce market values for about 500,000 properties, a little over, depending on the tribe. As part of Illinois law, taxpayers have the opportunity to challenge our predictions of their market value. So if I tell you I think your home is worth 500,000 and you say it's not a penny over $250,000, 250,000, well, you think I've made a big mistake and that could cost you a lot of money, and you have the opportunity to challenge us. So what we have, unfortunately, in Cook County is very unique in the number of challenges that we face. We face about 300,000 appeals every single year. We have an appeal rate of roughly 40 to 60%. So about 1 out of every 2 taxpayers thinks that we have made an egregious error in our market valuation. And the next largest county in the United States faces an appeal rate of about 10% or less. So we are not only the leader, but we are the leader in terms of the number of appeals by far. And we don't think that we do that bad of a job. So there is a disjoint between the number of appeals that we face and the underlying quality of our assessments. And so we have a project to create an informational application that allows a taxpayer to put their property index number into an application and get back a report that explains our reasoning as to why we think that their property is worth what we think their property is worth. And so fundamentally the project is about, is twofold. First is to reduce the number of frivolous appeals. And second is to increase the number of meaningful appeals. So a frivolous appeal, in our opinion, is one in which the taxpayer has no reason to believe that our evaluation is inaccurate, and they simply want to appeal on the off chance that they could get a reduction. A meaningful appeal is an appeal where the taxpayer conveys information to us that we didn't previously have, and therefore we couldn't incorporate into their evaluation process. And that allows us to actually produce a more accurate assessment role. Hopefully we will have this application available to the public later this year or early next year before we begin our reassessment of the city of Chicago.